hi, I'm Carolyn Oberst. So I start my work by collecting images of people, places, things, just things that are out in the culture from all kinds of ways, media, my own photos, just whatever. My idea is that I'm sourcing things from the contemporary culture, from what's going on around us now. It could be something historical as well if it's relevant to what's happening today, but basically what's in the zeitgeist. I don't start with a preconceived idea. I try to let the images form the idea as I go along. So I pick things that have emotional resonance, or I like the shape, or there's something about the expression or the atmosphere. It's a completely subconscious act. I try to turn off the judgmental part of my brain and kind of just let things flow. Once I have gathered a few images together, I start making drawings, and I do collage, I layer, I use a lot of tracing paper so that I can overlay images and see how they look going through each other. And I just keep playing around with that until I find something that seems a little bit promising. And then I make a final drawing, it's almost like a framework. It's not a detailed drawing, very much of like pencil on paper, just kind of like a framework that I can hang the painting on, and I transfer that onto the canvas. But once I start painting, then the mystery of the painting process starts to reveal itself, because things immediately start to change, things vanish, other things enter, things move around, shapes form that I had no idea where they even come from. So I try to just let the work tell me what it wants to do, and I try to stay open to that. People sometimes ask me about colors because my color is unusual, and why did you pick that color? And I always say, well, that's what the painting told me it wanted. It's sort of like, so I see it, the painting as a dialogue with my brain. Like the painting is what's going on in my brain, outside, inside. It's very much like that. And sometimes I'm completely surprised at the results because it's totally different than where I started. So it's a fun but challenging kind of way to work,
Yeah, and then so you mentioned specifically here your paintings, but you also work as a multidisciplinary artist. Do you want to talk about the mediums that you work with in your practice?
Well, the thing is, I have, because I've been an artist since 1980, showing my work since 1980. So there's a lot. I've covered a lot of territory. I have done many, many kinds of things. I've always been interdisciplinary. I've used buttons. I've sewn things. I've done wood sculptures. I've done, just collage and paint, all kinds of materials. But right now, I'm working exclusively with just oil on canvas. That's just what's happening now. I saw this Werner Herzog film. I don't know if I told you about this a few years ago. Cave of Forgotten Dreams. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but anyway, it was about his exploration of the earliest known cave paintings. It was
cave paintings. Okay, yeah.
And he was allowed in when nobody else was, and he, But I was so taken with that. I was impressed with how early humanity needed to record what was going on around them. They needed to create images of what their life was going, what was being at the time. And somehow that, I don't know, just resonated with me. And after a while I decided, because I was still doing lots of other kinds of things, I decided to base my imagery on my world around me. And I would use imagery from the contemporary world, but I would do it with simple tools, like no digital, just paint on canvas with a brush. Okay. And what could I do with that? So that's where I've been for the last little while, maybe a year and a half.
For the past few years, maybe, or a few months, or?
Oh, well, I started at 2019, so however long that is. About a year and a half, I don't know. And I just wanted to see how that would feel. But the thing that was interesting to me, he disappeared. The thing that was interesting to me when the pandemic came was it made so much sense to be working simply, smaller, you know, just kind of fit in with what was going on. So it was sort of like back to basics, sticking with the simplest tools and just seeing how much I could do with that. But I have tons.
Yeah. Well, I also want to know, because you mentioned specifically the pandemic, do you feel as though the subject matter that you were working with maybe shifted at all as a result, or even like the image making process?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a pandemic city here, which you'll see. I'm going to show you the two latest.
Great.
Those will be the ones that I talk about, are the two latest pieces, and you'll see how much it's been affecting me.
Yeah, we can transition to that now if you'd like to.
And okay. Sure.
Then we can return back. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Why don't you show us one and then the other?
Okay. So,
oh, if you can move it slightly more to the left. We're almost there. No, the other. Yeah, there you go. Perfect. There you go. Great.
Great. Perfect. Okay. So when I was, well, first of all, the idea with these paintings is to keep the figurative detail to a minimum, so that in order to emphasize the shapes and the forms, it's not a description, it's a composition. So I'm not trying to create a narrative or do anybody's portrait. It's a collage of impressions that work together visually, and then they have this emotional resonance. At least that's what I'm trying for. Let me make sure that's
okay.
Yeah. So when I was gathering imagery for these paintings, once we had to leave the city and move to a different studio, I tended to be drawn to things of psychological distress and confusion. You know, what else? I mean, if my idea is to draw from the world around me, what was I to get? So I've done 3 of these so far. The other difference between the work previous is that these are much smaller. Previous, this series, which started in 2019, I was working 4 or 5 feet. But the small size seems correct. So these are all going to be 28 by 30.
Okay.
So what I thought might be a good idea, usually I don't like to break it down and describe each element and where it came from and who it is, etc. But I think it might help in this situation for people to really understand what's going on here. So I thought I would talk about, so for example, this guy here, you know, the word guy, confused guy, I don't know. He's not famous. I don't really know where I found him, but obviously it struck me as something I could use. All that's going on around him, that was my idea of kind of showing what was inside his mind, is this confusion. I mean, it's colorful and fun, but he's obviously confused or in trouble somehow. All of this was not in the drawing. I mean, it was not, all of this just happened as I was working on it, not pre-planned. This figure is based on Rihanna. Everyone knows is a successful, you know, beautiful, incredible artist. And she has this amazing hair. She's always doing fabulous things with her hair. So in this case, somehow the hair is connecting her to this confused guy. I sort of feel like a powerful woman, guy who doesn't know what's going on, especially with women anymore or whatever. So there's some kind of connection there between the two of them. She's looking over at him. He's like this. And the hair becomes kind of like a pathway maybe to some identity or something. That wasn't pre-planned, that just happened. The couple here, if people know Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz from years ago, they had a
I was going to say it's very
TV show.
Yeah.
They were known for their you know, bad divorce and all these fights they used to have and everything. But when I somehow, I don't know why I found that picture of them and somehow attracted me, but in the picture that I found, they were actually kissing, like lips were touching. And I thought, no, they should be separated and try maybe kissing, but maybe never kissing. And then there's like this wall between them. And I also left I think the painting was in color, but the image was in color, but I made it black and white.
Right.
First, because that's the era that they're from, but also the color made sense with the painting. So,
yeah.
So to me, it was a sort of like how couples are feeling now. You know, it's kind of sick of each other and all seeing each other too much. You know, I felt like it caught some of that. This guy here, I think, is very, you know, he's trying to hang on. Is he going to fall in and drown, or is he going to be safe? I mean, he's got all his anxieties, and I just thought it really captured it. This part of the image is, what's his name? Adam Driver, which was like,
right.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't think it really particularly looks like him or anything. It's just that I found this image of him reaching, and I created this whole image of this guy who's like half in, half out. Again, I think it captures the moment. And then you have the helping hand coming in, but what does it have to offer but empty chairs that are distanced apart? So, but I don't think you really need to know all of that background necessarily to get what this painting is talking about. It's absolutely capturing the time that we're in, I feel.
Oh, sure. And his facial expression is very relatable.
Yeah, and the thing that
here in the bottom
quadrant, thing that connects everything is the color.
Right.
The color moves through everything's, you know, so visually it's connected, even though these are disparate images. The painting makes sense because the color brings it together.
Right.
All right, that's what I think. Okay.
Oh, this is your other. So these are both from 2020. Is that correct,
Carolyn? They're hot off the press. These are just,
great. Wow, fantastic.
Last, I finished this a couple of weeks ago. So these are the newest too. So I thought I'd show you the latest. The latest and greatest. So this one is called, did I give you the title? My pain flows like a river through my heart. So
flows like a river in my heart. Is that, yeah.
Yeah, flows like a river through my heart. It came, when I was working on this, it was after George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, you know, the marches, all this had been happening while I was working. So again, when I started collecting images for a piece, so this is Nina Simone, which obviously, you know, she's the great civil rights singer, and with all this going on, it's obvious that I would respond to her image. And this down here, the last show, as we were fleeing, at the Modern was this Dorothea Lange show. She's, I think that it was still up when they closed. She was a Depression era photographer. She went around taking pictures of people during the Depression. And this image, the woman, you know, that was the one they used in their ads. And so it was it was everywhere. I was seeing it all the time.
Got it.
So again, that attracted me. What happened in the Depression? What's going on now? This is Lil Nas. He was on everybody's mind for a while with his songs, and I love that fact that he crossed over to everybody wanted to sing with him. Everybody wanted. So there was something about him bringing people together that I felt, but mostly it was the way he was, his position, the way he look on his face, how that works so great with her arm, and how it could come together.
Absolutely.
And then this is actually based on Patrick Stewart, who's another good guy, works for good causes, but mostly because their arms all went together, they all had a similar expression on their face, and I think it just worked really well. I could use the striping, and it made for an interesting composition, and yet it was all based on things that made sense together, I thought.
Sure.
It keeps going off, the image. This is, I'm blanking on his name, of course. John Legend, one of my favorites.
Wow. Right.
Him singing, and he's been out front on all good things lately. He's been leading the charge. So it was basically his shape, and then he was singing. So And then these women, they're kind of like generic women, exhausted. I mean, women are exhausted. They're teaching their kids, they're trying to work, everything's falling on women these days. So I wanted to kind of put them in there. You know, the fact of who it was based on doesn't really matter because it doesn't look like her at all. So, you know, again,
Right.
it started out as someone and it became a generic person. So those were the images. And then of course the city.
Right. And I want to know too about this opaque ribbon that you have. I know that you
so I just want to tell you that. What happened? So what happened? Yeah. That wasn't again in the beginning. So somehow I think, you know, my brain wanted to connect all these people or all these situations, and that just started happening. I'm like, okay, I don't know, what are you doing here? And I just kind of let it happen, and it seemed to draw the whole thing together so that it made sense as a unit. And then the funny thing about the title was that we were babysitting for our three-year-old granddaughter and walking back from the park with her, and she was singing really loud in the stroller a line from a folk song, "Peace flows like water or like a river through my heart," and singing it, and it was just bizarre. But anyway, it's one of her apparently favorite songs. But a little while later, while I was working on this painting, I was remembering that she sang that, but I remembered it as "pain flows like a river through my heart."
Oh, wow.
And I thought, wow, you know, that's me. That's where I'm at. So that's what I named it. "Pain flows like a river through my heart." And I feel like that was all kind of like this, everybody's upset and they're all sharing this moment of pain and struggle.
Right. And again, that's from this year.
Oh, that's from just
from right. So very new, very fresh, incorporating the recent protests.
And the other thing is the background. Yeah. The background color, this kind of smooshy gray, yellow. That was from a picture of tear gas.
Oh, wow.
I don't remember which. Oh, I get upset just saying it. I don't remember which, thing it was from, but in the image, that was the color of the tear gas they were using on demonstrators.
Very powerful. And again, just to kind of wrap up on this work, you said that's the city, New York City, here on the bottom.
Well, I think it's kind of like a generic city. Okay. Any city, it's like cities are struggling. There are all these issues now. The red sky, the gray clouds. It's just sort of feeling for what's happening in the city.
Yeah, definitely. Well, these are two very powerful works. So
and again, I think the color is what makes the whole thing come together. So even though they're disparate people from different times and different cultures, it kind of draws the whole thing together. And I feel that's what I'm trying to do. Anyway.
Yeah. No, I absolutely can see those aspects of your work here. And I would love, if you want to sit back down with us, I would just love to ask you about some recent exhibitions that you've been in, or even, if you have upcoming projects or anything that you're working on that you want to share with us. We'd love to hear more about that.
Okay, so as you'll remember, in 2019, I was in a group show at the Westbeth Gallery in the West Village. It was a 5-person show, but it's a very big space, so everybody had a lot of room. I had 11 or 12 works in the show. But what was exciting for me, besides it was a really nice show, was that I was showed my animation. It was the only time I've gotten to show that video animation I made of a painting. So that was exciting that people got to see that. And then just recently in May, I was in the group show with Yi Gallery online, of course. And
Yi Gallery. So it's YI Gallery. And I believe Cecilia, if she's not on here now, she was here before. Cecilia Jobluck is the director there. So,
yes, she's the director, and she selected the works, I believe, and she's just so great. But what was interesting about that is she picked two pieces, a piece from two different times and two different ways of working, and put those together. And she saw connections between them, and I thought that was great because I would never have thought of that. One was more abstract, one was more figurative, one was oil, one was, it was just, I thought her selection was really interesting. So I enjoyed that. And I do have an upcoming, another, of course, online exhibition at the Islip Museum. I'll be in a show there October 4th.
What's the name of the museum? The
Islip Museum.
Oh, the Islip, ISLIP, right? Oop, I think you froze there for a moment, Carolyn. I'll just wait for you to unfreeze here in a second. Okay, let's see. What we might do now, because we are running up on the hour, I think I'm going to end because I think we're frozen here and just restart.